like just kind of separated themselves with this draft. I feel like the Chiefs, out of all the contenders, like they really did do the best out of all the contenders of adding to their needs, adding, I think, quality depth too. Like, I don't know if they got a bunch of day one starters on here, but they got a bunch of, it seems like will be very solid role players or very solid depth pieces that you feel comfortable at least with heading into the season. Is that football show here on KC Sports Network? Tucker Franklin hanging out with Matt Verderame as always. Shout out to our partners, Ben Holiday, Bottled and Bond Bourbon, Holiday Distillery, rocking another holiday cap that I have here in the rotation. Gotta shout out the brand Holiday Distillery. They are amazing hosts, amazing guests, and just an amazing place overall to go and just chill. Like if you want to feel like you can unplug and get away, Holiday Distillery is your place to be. Matt, you got a new location today as we are recording our weekend edition. How you doing? How's everything?
I'm good. I'm up in northern Wisconsin at the old lake house. Living the dream. Opened it up. We got up here last night, and my daughter Maisie who's made a few guest appearances over the years. Yeah. Has a canopy over her bed. Right, one of those little like mesh canopy things. Like we just hang it from the ceiling. Like it's not like a full blown like all the way over, but it's just kind of like it wraps around and whatever. Yeah. So we get up to Wisconsin. We drop our stuff off. We're opening up, and I'm going to go into town quick and get a few things for the grocery store. My wife texts me while I'm at the grocery store, like, "Hey, listen, Maisie laid down in bed and looked up in the canopy." I was like, "Oh, cool, like a frog." And she's like, I looked up and it was just a bat just hanging from this canopy. So she's like, oh yeah, honey, a frog. Like, why don't you come with me for a minute? And so she's like, when you get home, deal with it. Like,
yeah.
So I get home, open up the door. There it is, just chilling, hanging in its canopy. Then I looked at it for about 3 seconds. I'm like, that thing's dead.
Yeah.
Like, it's definitely dead. But the interesting postscript, so we got it. It was dead. We got it out of there, whatever. Maisie still thinks it was a frog that somehow got in there and thinks it's funny. And if it was a bat, she would never come back to this house for the rest of the time.
Fair, yeah.
I can't really figure out how to back it. We don't have an attic, so I'm a little bit interested in how that maybe came down like the chimney. I don't know. Anyway, so when we came up one time before we shut the house down in the winter in like December, and we walked in and there was like what I thought were mouse droppings just on like windowsills, and I could not figure out. I'm like, why the hell are mouse like droppings on windowsills, but nowhere on the floor? That's really bizarre. Now I know why. I'm guessing that goon bat got in there, and it was causing issues. But when we came back up, there were no droppings anywhere. So I'm like, all right, well, he must have died right after we turned off the heat. Yeah. But in any event, so that was fun. But other than that, the house opening was a success. And now I'm sitting here on a chair that's meant for a toddler. And I've got the computer on my bureau. And if I just all of a sudden just drop, it's because this chair is meant for somebody who's 70 pounds, and I'm about 160 pounds heavier than that. So here we are. Let's party.
Good players adjust, That's how we roll here. That is true.
If this thing turns to sawdust, don't even cut it out. Just leave it. It's hilarious.
Matt, do you think I edit anything in this podcast? This is just straight. What I tell people is like this podcast is like legitimately our conversation, because we don't really, a little peek behind the curtain, we don't really like prep a ton. Like we have ideas of what we're going to talk about. We don't really talk about exactly specifics of what we're going to talk about until we hit record, and then it's just our conversation. This is just us having a conversation. That's how the show works, and I think people appreciate that. And I think that the more raw and unfiltered we can make this show, the better, truthfully. So if something happens like that, there's no shot on it. Even if it happened to me, if my chair would break in the middle of it, I'd leave it in there. That's hilarious.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. But we'll see. We'll see if the chair holds up. Just like we'll see if the Bengals defense holds up this year.
There we go.
Yeah,
look at that.
That a single reinforcement that matters in this draft, or in free agency, as it were. So that's good. I have more confidence in the chair than the Bengals.
I think that's probably fair. Let's look at the. So we're gonna take a look at some AFC West draft classes, also some AFC contenders as well. We'll probably do the contenders first. Obviously, you bring up the Bengals. Let's talk about the Bengals because they had 2, 4, 6 picks, and they took an edge, 2 linebackers, and 2 guards and a running back. Shamar Stewart was their first pick at pick number 17. Well, I like Shamar Stewart. I think that's a good pick. I think honestly, if he was there for the Chiefs, they probably would have taken him there. Here's the thing, though, Matt. They had to take Shamar Stewart. They had to take a defensive lineman. They had to do that because, as you alluded to, we don't know who's playing defense for him. Trey Hendrickson doesn't want to play defense for him, and they have a new defensive coordinator because apparently that was the problem with their defense.
Yes. Yeah. Whenever your defense is terrible, the answer is to fire Lou Anarumo, who is the only coordinator who's ever slowed down Mahomes more than like in a one-off, just random game.
Right.
Like Anarumo is the one. I got to tell you, man, the second the Bengals fired Anarumo, if I was the Raiders or something, I would have thrown. I would have paid him like a head coach.
Yeah.
You want to come here? Because we can't stop giving up 40 points to this guy. So anything you want to do would just be great. But no, Shamar Stewart, like I like Shamar Stewart. I think he's super talented. The problem with Shamar Stewart is he had 4.5 sacks in 3 years at Texas A&M.
Very true. Yes.
Like he just doesn't produce. And then they drafted an 84-year-old linebacker in the second round who was projected to be a middle of the day 3 type of pick.
Yep.
Like Demetrius Knight Jr., nothing against him, played 6 years in college at 3 different programs. And literally NFL.com thought he was a 6th round pick. And I believe Brugler had him as a 4th, I think. I know it wasn't a 2nd. And so like it was funny because so there were a few moments in the draft that made me legitimately laugh. One of which was when the Bengals took Demetrius Knight. Nothing against Demetrius Knight, but it was because Jihad Campbell goes off the board at 31 to the Eagles.
Right.
And then Carson Schlesinger goes off the board to the Browns. I think it was at 33. I think it was the first pick of the second round.
Yeah.
Because then they took Judkins at like 36. And after they took Schlesinger off the board, Schlesinger, I should say, after they took him off the board, Daniel Jeremiah, who I have a lot of respect for on NFL Network and does work for NFL.com, was like, look, they took him here because there is no other linebacker even worth talking about for quite a while. And the Bengals were like, guess what? 10 picks later, boom, right here. 25-year-old line. He is legitimately 25 in July. 25-year-old linebacker who played at 3 different schools over 6 college years and didn't produce till he was like 22 and in college. The Bengals took him. So I thought that was hysterical. And then on top of that, still the best one was when the Jets took a receiver in the 4th round out of Georgia. And the entire conversation was literally whether he needs eye surgery because he dropped so many passes.
Right.
That was the best. That was 5 minutes of discussing that pick was drops the ball a lot. You got to wonder, like, LASIK? Like, does he? I'm like, if you're discussing whether your 4th round receiver needs a LASIK because he's got such bad hands, not good.
That's tough.
It's not good.
So I'm looking at the ESPN has a pretty good on their NFL draft tab over here. They have a pretty good like rundown of you can like click on every team and you can see all their picks. It's it's laid out pretty nice. And at the top they have needs and they highlight it if you hit the needs. Going back to the Bengals, 2 of their 5 are clicked. So they didn't even really draft. They took 2 guards and an edge rusher and a linebacker. They also probably needed it. Yes, they took a running back, Taj Brooks, which I like Taj Brooks. I think Taj Brooks is a good running back. Fine running back.
Chase Brown, you took him a year ago.
But yes.
It's insane. It's insane. It's like if the Chiefs took a quarterback in the 4th round. Like, I don't know, just him.
Yeah. Schroeder was still there.
Yeah.
Well, I guess he would have been in the 4th. Yeah.
Yeah. He was still there. Yeah, he was hanging around.
Let's just take Shedeur. Yeah, the Bengals one is interesting. I even think Buffalo's is a little interesting as well. Like they get Maxwell Harrison in the 1st round. Obviously, they trade up for TJ Sanders, which we watched a little bit of TJ Sanders tape before day 2, and like I didn't necessarily see it with TJ Sanders. I thought there were some other D tackles that I liked better. But look, beauty's in the eye of the beholder, especially when it comes with the NFL draft. So they must have felt strong about him as well. But what do you think about the Bills draft?
I gave it a B on SI.com, and I vacillated between a B and a B minus. Like, I like Harrison. My only concern with Harrison is he's small. And when you take a corner that's small, and I don't have his measurables in front of me, but I think he's like,
I'll get it. Yeah.
I believe he's 5'10" and like 183. When you're that small, like let's just use the Chiefs as the obvious example here. You're not guarding Rashee Rice. Like, I don't care how good of a corner you are. You're just not going to guard that guy. That guy's got 6 inches on you and 40 pounds, 35 pounds. Like, think about the difference in your life if you had a guy who was 6 inches shorter than you and you outweighed him by 50 pounds. If you're going to be able to beat that guy for a jump ball, I mean, if you can't, you're really pretty unathletic, right? Like, I mean, you're going to be able to do something with him. But I like Harrison's talent level. TJ Sanders, I'm with you. I thought, quite frankly, he was more of like a third round pick. But maybe a late second. But he went 41. The Bills, like you said, moved up. I did like Donovan Jackson. Landon Jackson. Landon Jackson.
Yes.
I think he's a good player. I like that pick for them. So that pick was fine. And then listen, when you get into day 3, unless you get some guy, frankly, like Royals with the cheat, where you're just like, I can't believe that guy's still here. Like, unless you get a guy like that, it's kind of, you're throwing lottery tickets at that point. Like, you're just hoping that you land the right guy. I mean, look, I like that the Bills took 6 defensive players out of 9 picks. I mean, they need help on defense.
Yeah.
I do disagree. I think we talked about it last year, where Brandon Beane wrote lit into like a local media about this. Like, I know what Bean means in the sense of, look, you guys scored more points than anybody in football last year. I get it. That's fine. I totally get it. My counter argument to that is, though, is when you get into these big games in the playoffs, not to the extent that the NBA is, but it's a star league. Sports are about stars. They are. And when you get into the inevitable 3rd and 8, 3rd and 10, for all those years with the Chiefs just went and looked out wide one. All right, 87, here it comes. And you always would watch, if you watch NFL Live or something, you'd hear people like, why don't they just cover Kelsey better? It's like, because they can't.
Yeah.
Because the Chiefs are going to match him up in a way where they're going to put him in motion, and you're not going to be able to double him, and he's going to find the seam. And it's like, he's just better than you. He's going to beat you. He's going to find a way to beat you. And that's, by the way, if you don't know what that was my daughter's school calling to find out why she's not in school. Well, you know what? They can wait. It's fine.
They can figure it out. You know what? Make some inferences.
By the way, hilarious side note. A year ago, I took her to a Brewers game, and I was like, you just play hooky for the day.
Yeah.
I called the school, and I was just like, listen, she can't come to school today. She's got a headache. And she's in the back seat. She's like, no, I don't. We're going to a baseball game. I was like, and then the woman in the background was like, what? I'm like, we're going to a baseball game. Have a nice day.
That's so funny.
My dad and I were dying. My dad was out in town for that one. But anyway, but my point was just that I think if you're the Bills or any team for that matter, not just the Bills, but like any team, there is a certain amount of you've got to have guys that in the big moment can just make that play. Let's talk about just the Chiefs as the example beyond like literal perfect examples of it. Super Bowl 58 against the Niners.
Yeah.
Chris Jones makes a big play to get off the field. Trent McDuffie makes a huge play to get off the field. Kelsey sets up what almost was a game-winning touchdown at the end of the game, right? With that catch and catch, or he beat Warner just one-on-one. How many guys are beating Warner straight up? I mean, maybe literally one.
Yeah.
2, maybe. You look back at Super Bowl 57. Mahomes running on one ankle, or Bolton making a huge play. And that play, who was that set up by? Chris Jones taking 2 blockers. And somehow Kadarius Toney making a massive play, which doesn't fit the narrative, but you get the idea. The point being, a lot of times in these spots, you're going to win because it comes down to just this guy against that guy, and my guy is better than you.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the one concern I do have for the Bills at receiver, and they didn't address it at all in the draft, was look, if your answer is Khalil Shakir against Trent McDuffie, I like Shakir a lot. Mm-hmm. He's not Trent McDuffie.
Right.
McDuffie's going to win that matchup far more often than not. And if your other answer is Keon Coleman, that's not an answer. It's not an answer. I'm sorry. The Chiefs are now set up in a way where Rashee Rice, he's an answer on 3rd and 8. That guy is a monster to deal with. Xavier Worthy looks like he's becoming a guy like that. Zay Flowers in Baltimore is a guy like that. Jamar Chase is that guy, 3rd and 9. You know where the ball's going. Good luck.
Right.
The Eagles have a bunch of guys like that. The Lions have Amon-Ra St. Brown. You go down the big time contenders, they all have guys like that. The Bills do not have a guy like that. So should they have drafted a receiver high? Maybe they should have gotten Luther Burden.
Yeah.
Instead of getting a TJ Sanders. So we could have that discussion all day long. I thought the Bills draft was fine. I did not think it was great. I didn't think it was bad. I thought it was fine.
A draft too that we always talk. I always talk about the Baltimore Ravens too. You bring up the Ravens a little bit. They got Zay Flowers. They got a guy that can separate. But they always draft. It seems like, Matt, the guys that I like going into the draft always end up in Baltimore. Zay Flowers was one of those guys where we got a chance to sit down with him at the Shrine Bowl. They always seem to nag these guys right before they can get to Kansas City. That's because they're always picking a little bit ahead of Kansas City, right? That's because that's where they're at. A very interesting. I don't think we could talk about the Ravens draft without talking about them taking Mike Green after saying they have a zero tolerance policy for domestic violence, which I think he has. Mike Green has had 2 accusations. I don't think he's been charged. He's had at least 2 accusations, one in high school, one in college, for him leaving Virginia Tech, going to Marshall. He was kicked off the team at Virginia Tech because of a domestic violence
it was
allegation.
Virginia. It was
Virginia, not Virginia Tech. Sorry, got my Virginia schools mixed up. But here's the thing: is that they just go out, and I think their general manager at the combine was talking about how they have a zero tolerance policy for any of this with the Justin Tucker stuff going on. And if you think that any of these teams actually give a rat's ass about this, like, you're sorely mistaken, and you have a very positive outlook on life, which is very nice. And I wish I had that as well. But these teams don't genuinely care. They really don't care about if you're good at football. They do not care. And we've seen this time and time again. Maxwell Harrison also had some allegations as well. Another team that the Bills like to play the moral high ground a little bit because, they cut Trevor. No, not Trevor Ariza. That's a basketball player. Matt Ariza.
Former Knicks great, yes.
Former Knicks great. Shout out the Knicks, by the way. Moving on. Hell of a shot by Jalen Brunson. That's not what we're talking about.
Thank God, because the rest of the team outside of him and Bridges basically just decided to take the night off. Yeah, it was great.
Anyway, Baltimore doesn't give a rat's ass about player character. Your thoughts?
Listen. I've said this in my own pod 100 times. I'll say it here. Okay. Like, if you're a fan of a team, any team, there's an uncomfortable reality you have to deal with. And whether or not, where you fall on the spectrum is completely up to you. But the reality is these teams mostly do not give a damn.
Yes, 100%. It's not just the Ravens, too. I want to be clear. Like, the Chiefs have been in this situation too. Yeah, nobody cares.
Do not care. The Ravens do not care. The Bills. Von Miller was accused of something heinous. Yeah. They didn't care. Von Miller was washed up when he was accused of that. They were like, "That's whatever. See you when you come back." Like, these teams do not care. They don't care. They've never cared. They're not going to start to care. Okay, Justin Tucker is a kicker.
Yeah,
and the accusations of him at this point, and they are accusations, but the accusations are piling up to the size of like Mount Everest. Okay,
yeah,
he was atrocious last season. He's still on the team. They drafted a guy on day 3 to compete with him potentially, but like, he's still there. The Ravens don't care that Mike Green had multiple sexual assault allegations against him because the Ravens are looking at Mike Green going, if that guy didn't have those allegations on him, probably would have been a top 15, 20 pick. And you know what? He's a good football player. And I got to tell you, why the Chiefs took Tyreek Hill in the 5th round way back when? Because the Chiefs looked at Tyreek Hill and said, man, that's some ugly stuff. And those weren't allegations. Okay, he pled guilty.
Yes.
Okay, he took a plea deal and had to transfer from Oklahoma State to West Alabama. And the Chiefs looked at that kid on film and went, okay, we will take the risk. Mm-hmm. And you know what? From a football perspective, they would do it 100 times out of 100 again.
Yep.
They wouldn't even blank. Now, whether or not you sit there and you're in the camp that says, I don't want guys like that on my team ever, that's totally fair. Okay. Or you're in the camp that goes, look, I'm not trying to root for Boy Scouts. I'm trying to root for a team that wins a lot of football games. I mean, I think most people fall somewhere in the middle of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Ravens, I mean, I thought their draft overall was fine. I honestly didn't think it was great. I thought it was okay, but they do draft well. I'll say this for the Ravens. They have a philosophy. They look for certain guys, and they know what they want. Like the second Malachi Starks got to them, I'm like, they're taking that guy.
100%. That makes so much sense for their defense, too.
Yeah.
Like,
the same thing like when Derek Harmon went to the Steelers. You're like, of course. Like, of course it's the guy's going to be a 10-time Pro Bowler playing next to Cam Hayward. Like, it's just that's who they are. These teams have certain philosophies that they adhere to, but yeah, with Baltimore, don't give me this crap to zero tolerance.
Yeah.
Because no team in the league is zero tolerance. Don't waste my time with this nonsense. Like that guy used to, and look, Andrew Brandt, who is a colleague of mine over at SI and used to run the Packers as their GM.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm probably getting a little bit off, but basically he has this saying of like, the more talent you have, the more leash you get.
100%.
And it's just the truth. I mean, if there were allegations against a guy who was a borderline 6th round pick, that guy's not getting drafted. There were allegations against a guy who was a top 15 to 20 pick, who was a pass rusher, and he was always getting drafted. I mean, most people thought he was going to still be a top 15 or 20 pick. So, listen, I thought the Ravens draft, like putting that aside for a second, I thought the Ravens draft was fine. I really like Starks. I think Green's interesting, even without like the other stuff. Like, look, he had one massive year at Marshall.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like, how does that translate? I don't know. Yeah. And then after that, they had a lot of picks, none of which were like, oh my God, that's an incredible value. I thought the draft was fine. I thought their draft was just a solid draft. Good draft.
Yeah. Malachi Starks, as you mentioned, that's a good one. Teddy Buchanan in the 4th round is a linebacker that I liked out of there. But I think the Chiefs got a good linebacker though, at the value that they did. LaJohntay Wester, another guy who was at the East West Shrine Bowl over there. But yeah, their draft was fine. I do think that the Chiefs kind of did, as we talked about kind of last show before we take a break here, Matt, like Chiefs kind of separated themselves with this draft. I feel like the Chiefs, out of all the contenders, like they really did do the best out of all the contenders of adding to their needs, adding, I think, quality depth too. Like, I don't know if they got a bunch of day one starters on here, but they got a bunch of, it seems like will be very solid role players or very solid depth pieces that you feel comfortable at least with heading into the season.
Yeah, I would agree. I think ironically, the guy who might be a day one starter for him is Norman Lott, who's kind of the guy that like nobody's even talking about. Like it feels like he might be the guy. I've already had people like, is Royals going to start? I'm like, not unless they go 5 wide the whole game. Like it's just tough. Now listen, if Rice is suspended, and there's maybe there's some of that, but Norman Lott's probably the guy who starts, with the caveat of just with Simmons, like. Is it just one of these deals where he comes into camp and he's healthy and he just looks unbelievable? Like, and you just like he's got to play. We're compelled to play him. I just think if you're the Chiefs, and I've been wrong with the Simmons thing the entire time, so don't take it from me. But I mean, I would think if you're the Chiefs, you're going to really slow play this thing as much, because let's be real. You don't care. Like, you can win games with Jalen Moore and Jawan Taylor.
Yeah, for sure.
And then if you got to replace one of them down the line, you just do it. But I'll be curious to see if the Chiefs, like if he comes out and he's healthy right off the bat and he's just awesome, do the Chiefs just go, you know what? Screw it. He's playing week 1. I don't know. They put Kingsley Suamataia in there and he was coming off an injury. They threw him right in there against Baltimore week 1. So who knows? You never know with them. They do not adhere to any norms.
They certainly do not. And I know that it is weird to say this after the year that we just had, but like Andy Reid typically doesn't really like to change anything on the offensive line he likes to have offensive line continuity. That's the reason that probably Joe Tooney started at left tackle in the Super Bowl, because he really does like that offensive line continuity. So I think that like if you don't see Josh Simmons start at the beginning of the year, I don't know if he does. Like, it would probably have to take Jalen Moore being atrocious, or hell, even Jawan Taylor being atrocious for them to, if he is healthy and he is up to shape, for him to be able to start or up there. So I think it's going to take a lot if he's not healthy and doesn't just blow the team away at camp, right, for him to end up starting. But that's going to be the big thing, is just making sure that he comes back and comes back healthy.
I think the answer is no to this question.
Okay.
Is there any world that Suamataia is so bad at guard that they kick more inside and play Simmons at left tackle?
I'm not going to rule anything out, I guess. When it comes,
I think the answer is probably no.
Right. I agree.
Like, they just have a weird situation where they have a lot of numbers now in a way that, like, could you do it? I don't know. I mean, maybe, but my guess is no. My guess is they put in like Caliendo or something, and not have a guy going from tackle to guard. But then it's like, maybe Mike Caliendo back in there, really? Like,
Hey, they said Andy Reid said this. It's going to be a competition for Kingsley and Mike Caliendo. And I tell you what, if Caliendo wins that job, it's going to be a dark day. And
if Caliendo wins that job over Kingsley, who, let's be real, they want him to win that job. Okay. If he can't win that job, they probably should get rid of him.
Yeah.
If he can't beat out Mike Caliendo, with the whole team rooting for him to do it, like he's gonna get all ties, right? Like,
oh, you would think, yeah, he's a second round pick. Mike Caliendo is like a UDFA from Western Michigan.
Yeah, like if he can't win that job, good night.
Not to mention he went to BYU.
You're right.
Like that's another tiebreaker for him.
I mean, come on, man. If you can't win that job, it's time to just give it up. It's over.
And start selling insurance.
Yeah, it's time to maybe think about like a job in scouting or something.
Yeah, scouting.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's take a break. I think we got some good legs out of that legit football talk. Now on the other side, there's a football adjacent story that we got to talk about here, and there's a lot of legs on it. So we'll take a break. We'll be back right after this. Chiefs.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
Success in real estate takes more than vision. It takes the right financial partner. When someone takes something rundown and turns it into something great, that's called a comeback story, like Brain Group. They take distressed properties here in KC, completely rework them, and then turn them into valuable real estate. But that kind of work needs the right bank behind it. Enter Emprise Bank. They're not about cookie-cutter loans. They saw Brain Group's vision, backed them, and now they're making big moves in Kansas City real estate. Talk about your partner in possible. Emprise doesn't do one-size-fits-all financing. They invest in potential and back growth. Visit emprisebank.com/KC to learn more. Emprise Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Are you ready to win some real cash during the basketball playoffs? Well, check out Pick 6 from DraftKings. When it comes to basketball payouts, DraftKings Pick 6 posterizes the competition. And yeah, that includes prize picks. Hit all your picks and score higher minimum payouts on Pick 6. Plus, even more cash if you outscore the competition. Pick 6 is available in most states, including Missouri, California, Texas, Georgia, and more. New players get 50 in Pick 6 credits instantly on just a $5 entry. Here's what you got to do. Download DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code KCSN. That's code KCSN for new customers to play $5 and get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. One per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos. I'm sure everyone by now has seen the clips, have seen everything going on from CBS Sunday Morning last weekend, yes, where Bill Belichick and his girlfriend, Jordan Hudson, did quite possibly maybe one of the most awkward interviews I've ever seen in my life. And look, I was a college reporter interviewing, college athletes, so I've done some pretty awkward interviews in my life as well. That one might have taken the cake for everything that was going on. And then we had a whole release of he said, she said statements from both CBS, from Bill Belichick. All of it's very funny.
University.
The university releasing, man, the Chapel Bill, I should say, era in Chapel Hill is off to a really strange and weird start. This isn't the first thing that we have heard about, like Jordan Hudson and Bill Belichick kind of letting her in to all the things that are going on. Like she's being CC'd on like emails, yes, and UNC with the program having to have things run by her before they get approved. It's all very strange. It's all very weird. and it is all football adjacent that we're talking about on that football show. So let me know your thoughts, Matt, on what all is going on with Bill Belichick now and his 24-year-old girlfriend. His girlfriend, by the way, younger than me.
Yeah. Listen, I never really delve into anybody's personal life on the show or any show because I just say that's out of bounds. Like, I'm never going to sit here and talk about like Kelsey and Taylor Swift or Brittany Mahomes. That just to me is gross and weird.
Yeah, right.
The only reason we're talking about this with Jordan Hudson is this is actually starting to bleed over now into like football stuff.
100%, yes.
Where she's on the practice field with him, and she's, according to the reports, was like trying to be the executive producer of Hard Knocks with UNC.
Yeah.
And then, now there's like statements going out, and everybody in the world, I think, who wanted to see this is seeing as you mentioned on CBS Sunday Morning, this interview with Belichick, which was almost like hard to watch. And I felt uncomfortable watching it.
Correct.
I give the guy who did the interview, his name just gave me, but I give him a lot of credit. Like, he kind of hung in there and did the best he could. But, he at one point asked Bill, like, oh, how'd you guys meet? And she just immediately interjects from off camera. Like, we're not talking about that.
Without hesitation. It was, boom, we're not talking about that.
What is going on? Listen. I am not going to sit here and tell anybody who to date, whether we're talking about an age difference, whether we're talking about gender, whatever. I don't care. Okay? It's none of my business. It's not my bedroom.
Sure.
Whatever. That being said, I do think there's a legitimate burgeoning concern here about like what is going on in terms of the football side of this. Is she going to be super involved in UNC's football program as a 24-year-old who has zero background to any of this? It's not like she's got some football background.
Yeah, she didn't play.
No. And then there's the other reason I wanted to kind of get into this was like, what if he comes back to the NFL in a year? Is she like going to be on the sidelines at NFL game? Like, this is becoming very, very odd. I mean, he's, what is he, 73? He is, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. 73. Just turned in April 16th.
Okay. I mean, so we're talking a 49-year age gap here, which again, listen.
Ooh.
Okay. I mean, wouldn't want to be his kid at Thanksgiving dinner.
Who am I to judge, right?
I mean, I'm just saying, like, hell, my wife and I have an age gap of a month and a half. So we're weird. But like, I think there is a genuine question at this point to be asked of like, what is going on with this whole dynamic? And if you're North Carolina, does there come a point where you sit them down and you're like, look, this has got to stop now. Like, if you look at like what happened with now it's a different dynamic. I understand all that. Pacers, Bucks. Pacers come back furiously in Game 5. They win the game. They win the series. And after the game, Tyrese Halliburton's father gets into Giannis's face.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The Pacers sat down with Mr. Halliburton and said, you are not coming to games anymore. And he was like, to his credit, was like, yeah, you know what? Like, it's fair. Like, I was, well, okay, fine. Right. That's a totally different dynamic. I understand that. But the bottom line is like, he put the Pacers in a bad light.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's what happened. This is now starting to get to a point where UNC looks like they're toothless and they look like they are desperate. And they basically just handed the keys off to Belichick and his 24-year-old girlfriend. Like, at what point here does UNC sit her down and say, listen, you want to go to practice? That's cool. You want to be involved? Like, fine. But like, you cannot be part of the public face of this franchise. Like, do you know how good it would have been for UNC if Hard Knocks did?
Right.
UNC, like that helps recruiting.
Yeah.
All these different things. And that basically, according to reports, got killed because she just wanted to be the executive producer of this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to tell you, man, if I'm the AD at North Carolina, like, I wouldn't try to roll an iron fist, but I would at least have a dialogue of like, look, this is
right.
You're stepping your bounds here.
Right.
And if I'm an NFL team that's thinking about maybe down the road in a year or so hiring him, I got to tell you, I've been doing a lot of due diligence right now. Like, is this what this is going to be?
Right.
Because if this is the case, like, I'm not signing up for this. There's no way in hell I'm signing up for this. I don't know how good of a coach he is. So I do think normally I would never talk about a personal thing, but I think this is actually starting to bleed over into a legitimate football, question.
And it would be weird, right? If let's take this to kind of like the Chiefs. If Tammy Reed was on the sideline for all
Right. It's not even the age thing. It's more just if Tammy Reed was just like, I need to be CC'd on every email you have with Spagnuolo, and I want to sign off on whether or not you guys do the franchise. Like, I just want to be involved in that.
Right.
You'd be, what? Why? It's very bizarre.
So I guess she's also shockingly gained a lot of money in her new role as the COO of Belichick Enterprises or whatever it is, whatever he's calling his own personal company. Productions, maybe Belichick Productions. So I mean, there's that. It is very interesting too. As I mentioned, it was like the he said, she said. Kind of give you guys a timeline if you're not aware. The interview comes out, the clip comes out. The first time I actually saw it was from Dave Portnoy, who is a renowned masshole, and he's going to defend the Patriots, Bill Belichick, probably whatever. And he's like, yeah, this is kind of weird. He was like, this is odd. We should probably be talking about it. That's the first time I saw it. Then CBS Morning News, I believe, tweeted out the full 8-minute interview or whatever it was. I watched it there. And then you have the next day, I believe it was Monday, UNC released a statement from Bill Belichick saying hey, I'm paraphrasing here. This wasn't actually written in the statement. He's like, hey, we asked him only to talk about the book, and he didn't do that. And then CBS released a statement and said, you didn't ask us that. We confirmed multiple times that we could ask you whatever, and your publication company said, yeah, go for it. So tough shit, basically, is what CBS said. And I think I'd probably tend to lean with CBS in this regard, truthfully, because of the reaction you saw from Jordan Hudson when she was asked about how they met. Also, if they did meet in a very innocuous way, right? A very maybe
they met at a restaurant.
Just come up with a story if you don't want to say how you actually met, right? No one gives a rat's ass how you met. Just have something to be like, oh yeah, no, I saw her at a
function,
at a meet and greet. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I met her there. No one would have batted an eye if they had a story together. And we're like, oh yeah, no. Now the story is coming out that he met her on an airplane, and he signed one of her textbooks. That's kind of strange.
Should have just came up with a story if that's the case.
If that's real, yeah, you should have just
signed
been
signed their 5-subject notebook, and
dating.
I mean, again, I didn't care about the age thing there. It's not my relationship, whatever. But it's very, very interesting from a football perspective. She's this involved to the point now that she's legitimately becoming part of the face of the program. She's that involved in it. Again, if I were the Tar Heels, man, I'd be like, look, she wants to be on the field during practice. That's cool. She wants to be in a box during the game. We'll happily accommodate her. Everything you want to do, that's cool. She should not be on emails for all these football things. She should not be it's like, think about if a WNBA coach was like the husband was just like, I got to be on all these emails. You'd be like, the dude needs to calm down. Okay. That guy, just put your feet up on the recliner, man. Breathe just a little bit. Yeah. But listen, every once in a while, weird things happen. Speaking of weird things happening, Jay Williams went on ESPN this morning, and we didn't even talk about doing this on the show, but I'm doing it. This is not about football, so everybody can just settle on for 5 minutes. Yeah. Jay Williams, that mic stand needs some WD-40.
Yeah, it does. I got. Maybe I just need to loosen a little bit, but it definitely does need something. I try to mute myself when I move it because I know it is just atrocious.
It sounds like me getting up in the morning with my back. But Jay Williams went on ESPN this morning. I forget what show it was. Doesn't matter. Who cares?
Yeah.
And made the comment that Jalen Brunson might be the best player to ever wear a Knicks uniform. I got to tell you, okay. I love Jalen Brunson, and he's the sole reason that I didn't walk into the lake this morning after watching the Knicks almost blow out the game to the Pistons. The idea that Jalen Brunson, who's been there for 3 years, is the best Knicks player of all time is just the kind of a take that maybe deserves a firing. What?
I mean, Patrick Ewing was pretty good, but no Jalen Brunson.
Patrick was in the Knicks for 17 years, went to the finals, it single-handedly made them competitive against Jordan for a decade.
Right.
But like, fuck that, because Jalen Brunson's gone to the conference semis a few times.
He hit a really cool shot last night.
Oh my God, man. Like, it's the Knicks, like, Jalen Brunson, if you're having a real conversation about Jalen Brunson, who has been magnificent for the Knicks, he is the best signing they've ever made. That is no question. Okay, but if you want to sit there and talk about the Knicks, which I'm sure everybody listening does, Patrick Ewing and Walt Clyde Frazier are 1 and 2 in some order, and it's not an argument. And then we can get into who the hell is number 3. Is it Bernard King? Is it Bill Bradley or Dave DeBusschere or Willis Reed? Fine, okay. And if you want to throw Brunson in that mix, like, okay, although I would argue Willis Reed was an MVP of the league, and Reed and Bradley and DeBusschere all won 2 championships there. Bernard King was one of the great scorers of all time for he blew his knee out, actually in Kansas City in Kemper Arena. Look, like,
not good things happen in Kemper Arena. Sorry to interrupt. Not very good things happening in Kemper Arena.
We always bring it back to Kansas City. But it's like, that is such a staggering thing to say. That's like, I'm trying to give a good example here. That's like if Jalen McDaniels had a game-winning 3 for the T-Wolves and Jay Williams was like, Jalen McDaniels, Kevin Garnett, who's better? Like, what are we doing? Like, you're paid millions of dollars.
Right.
And that's the takeaway. Like, instead of just, by the way, being like, listen, that was a great shot. He had an all-time performance, hung 40 on Detroit's ass in their building. Like, what a great postseason player he's been for this. Because, by the way, he's averaged over 30 points a game in the playoffs for the Knicks.
It's incredible. Yeah.
Instead of having that take, which not only would have been measured, but also like corrected takes, like he's the greatest player in Knicks history. And now like everyone's talking about on social media is what a ridiculous take that is.
Yeah.
Instead of just enjoying the moment for what it was, which was a great shot to close out a series at the end of a great game by Jalen Brunson. Mm-hmm. And the way I'm going to bring this back to football is like the hot take machine, it needs to just be taken apart and dismantled forever. Like, it's like every time Chiefs fans have to listen to it after like Joe Burrow throws for 3 touchdowns and 340 yards and they beat like Indianapolis. And some bozo comes on the TV the next day and is like, is Burrow better than Mahomes? And you're like, why? Because he did that? Yeah. Like, it's just crazy. Like, I actually I'm proud of the media for restraining itself and not proclaiming Jalen Hurts is better than Mahomes.
Yeah, that hasn't really happened, though.
That hasn't happened.
That is a good point.
Funny. But we're probably one, like if Mahomes throws for like 220 and a pick week 1, we're probably looking at like he's like the 12th best quarterback in the NFL. And like we're going to get like one of those like lower thirds, like Mahomes or Penix. Yeah, like it's just, but man, the takes are just, there's got to be an accountability at some point here.
Yeah,
like,
it's exhausting.
Fire the guy, but like, holy hell, man. Like, that's where somebody else should be able to push back, like in real time, like defend that position. Do it. I want to hear you defend that position. And if your position on that is, well, he hit a shot last night, like, I got to tell you, Josh Hart hit his shot to win the series in 6 games against the Sixers last year.
He did.
Dante DiVincenzo capped one of the wildest playoff games I've ever seen last year when they beat the Sixers in game 2. Like, I would make an argument that as great as that shot was by Brunson, it's like the 3rd best shot the Knicks have hit in the last 2 years to win a playoff game. And like no one was sitting there like Josh Hart, Ewing, come on, what are we doing? It's insanity.
It is crazy. What else is crazy is we got power rankings coming up. I know that's really what you guys have been waiting for this whole podcast. We are power ranking. I don't know how I want to word this. We're basically building an army to take on the one gorilla, right? You guys all know the hot social media trend going on. 100 guys versus one gorilla. We are putting in our top 5 guys that we need in that army for the humans to even have a shot to take on the one gorilla. We're going to take a break. On the other side of the break, that's what we're going to power rank. We'll see you soon. Chiefs.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network. Entertain, educate, inform. KC Sports Network.
Matt and I both have very different approaches to power rankings, and I greatly appreciate how Matt's able to do it. I've written down a whole list of guys that I'd want to see on this roster. So basically have a roster, and I'm going to pick 5 from it. It's going to be kind of game time decisions, what I'm feeling in the moment. Matt, you just dome this, right? You just go straight from the dome.
I legitimately forgot we were in power rank these say. So yes, yeah, right off the dome.
It's incredible. I'll go first. Because number 5 for me is the Bash Brothers. Those guys were so roided up, and they had the biggest biceps you've ever seen in your life. Jose Canseco, Mark McGuire. I want the Bash Brothers out there, defending the humans' honor. This is like if you're trying to build an army of like superhumans to take on a gorilla, or just like an alien. I would want the Bash Brothers out there representing the human race. But prime Bash Brothers. I don't want them now. I don't want the Bash Brothers now. I want them when they were all roided up. Those were the days. Roided up baseball players, man.
So I've thought about this. This guy probably shouldn't count because I think people have to be alive to count. But it's not confirmed that this guy's dead, so I'm tossing him in there. Okay, going old school. John Brisker, who played in the ABA. Okay, most terrifying man who played in the ABA, was a pretty damn good player, by the way. It was an all-star. But here's a quote about him from his teammate Charlie Williams, who played with him on the Pittsburgh Condors. Okay,
sick name, by the way.
Great name. Quote, he was an excellent player, but say something wrong to the guy, and you had this feeling he would reach into his bag, take out a gun, and shoot you. Okay.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's right. And there's a million stories about this that are just like John Brisker. You ever want to? They're just unbelievable. It's just crazy. And then the belief is that he was killed in Uganda fighting as a mercenary. But he's never been found, so no one knows if he's dead for sure. So John Brisker at 5. You didn't think that was coming, but John Brisker, I'm putting him on the list because if he is found, he's a bad MF.
Watch out for that gorilla. That gorilla better watch out.
That's right. The gorilla's going to want to go home. Yeah, John Brisker at 5.
Number 4, I'm going with 2014 Sean Oakman. Remember Sean Oakman for the Baylor Bears? He had the nasty face mask that made every kid, well, me, I guess, just wanted that face mask in the visor. Shredded abs. Like, he is one of those guys you'd want out there representing the human race, I think, there. So 2014 Sean Oakman. Man, I'm going to have some honorable mentions here because that 2014 Sean Oakman just pushed one off my list that I thought was going to make it. But when we go at the end here, I'm going to do a speed round of honorable mentions. But 2014 Sean Oakman's my number 4. Matt, you're number 4.
Number 4, a guy nicknamed Silverback, Trent Williams.
Yeah,
not a small man.
He's not.
Pretty damn physical. So I will say number 4, Trent Williams, who I feel like has got the size and strength and a great nickname to help John Brisker in this cause here.
It's very solid nickname to take on a silverback gorilla.
Yeah, feels appropriate.
Number 3 for me, I've got TNA Kurt Angle, or as he's commonly referred to as Perk Angle, when he was off the Percocets. That dude was built different. Kurt Angle, a guy who won a gold Olympic medal in wrestling on a broken neck, who is just an absolute animal. That dude, prime Kurt Angle, Perk Angle. I'm taking him at number 3. And it should be 100 gorillas versus Perk Angle is what I think that would probably be a closer competition. So if I got him at my number 3 right there, for me, Matt, what do you got?
I'm going to take number 3 for me is the guy that sunned Trent Williams in a Super Bowl. It's Mike Pennell.
Big Mike Pennell.
Mike Pennell is also one of the nicest guys I've ever interviewed, but also
he's incredible.
He's legitimately the biggest human being I've ever come in contact with face to face. And I've met Vince Wilfork.
Big dude.
I would take Mike Pennell. Like, Mike Pennell makes Chris Jones look tiny. I almost would pay just to watch Mike Pennell like in the gym for an hour, like just lift weights. Like, that's just got to be an unbelievable experience. Like, hand me the 120 dumbbells, go do a curl. Like, oh my god!
The Chiefs have Mike Pennell.
He's just crying 3 times the weight, just getting after it. Oh, shit.
The Chiefs have 33-year-old Mike Pennell listed at 6'4", 330.
Bro, that's got to be small. I weigh 230 pounds. I'm telling you, right? I honestly think he could pick me up and throw me like a child. Like the guy is huge. And again, one of the nicest people I've ever met. Like really, in terms of in the NFL, really nice guy. But man, I feel like if you really piss Mike Pennell off, not good. You have a tough day.
Silverback gorillas, for comparison, 430 is about the typical 430 pounds, 5 feet tall. Mike's got the height advantage. Maybe the length advantage. Maybe I don't know. I don't have Mike's arm length in front of me right now. But 330. This is probably when he first came to the team, right? Like they're like, all right, what's your height, weight, or maybe even first came into the league because they probably just got this information from the other team that he was with. There's like, all right, you're 6'4", 330. And just never update it, and that could be a situation here. I like that pick there. I do think that is just picking large human beings is probably a generally good strategy. Well, speaking of large human beings, number 2, I'm taking the 0-2 Chiefs offensive line. Those were some bad MFers right there. That was a damn good offensive line. I'll take those guys. Against the gorilla because obviously Prime in 2002. I don't want them now because they're old. But that offensive line was the offensive that made Priest Holmes a lot of money.
All I have to say is Willie Roaf, who's the size of a mountain.
I mean, God.
And it has the feet of like a wide receiver. It's insane.
That dude is like that is an athletic marvel, is Willie Roaf. What was he listed at? Let's see. 6'5", 320 is what Willie Roaf. That does, because he was a ginormous human being. Still is a big human being. You just don't lose that. But that's what I'm taking at my number 2. Your number 2.
Before I get to my number 2, I just want to tell you that on Twitter right now, the Colin Cowherd show tweets out a quote: Jalen Brunson at this point is rapidly climbing best Knicks player ever, and you can rest assured that it wasn't Colin Cowherd who gave that opinion; it was Jason McIntyre. So if you were wondering, if you're like, is that opinion crazy? Well, there you go. Number 2 is Shaq. Just a big dude. And again, like hilarious individual, but also like keep in mind Army background, parents in the Army or fathers in the Army. So also probably knows how to kill somebody with his bare hands. Beyond just the fact he's 7 feet, like 300 and some odd pounds. So I'll take him. He actually might be bigger than the silverback gorilla in terms. I mean, certainly has the height on him. You said the silverback's 400 something, so he doesn't have the weight, but he's close. He's closer to most people.
He is. Maybe that new the Buccaneers drafted the heaviest and the lightest player in the draft. I don't know if you saw this. They drafted Tez Johnson, who is 150 some odd pounds, and then they drafted the Georgia defensive lineman, who's like 464. Which is a massive human being.
Put him on the list.
He'd be an honorable mention once I found out his name. That's gonna be the biggest barrier. All right, that was your number 2 with Shaq. Shaq is a good one, man. Did you see the clip of him going on the TNT hockey studio? Because like they share the studio, right, with like the basketball and the basketball and the hockey. They share the studio, and he had like a helmet on, but it was obviously way too small for him, and he just had like a stick and was like scooting out there. I'll have to send it to you because it's hilarious because he's so much bigger than everyone who is talking about hockey, and it is very funny. I guess I'm at number 1 now.
Yep.
Gosh, I got some good ones on here. I'm gonna go with Prime Mike Tyson. I think Prime Mike Tyson.
Oh, geez, I didn't think about him. Yeah, that's a great call.
Out there as my number 1 with a bullet. I think that you got to get him out there. Dude bit a guy's ear off and is literally known for hand-to-hand combat. That's so
Tyson's insane.
Yeah, I think Prime Tyson's going to be my 1-1. I feel pretty good about that.
It made me so sad when he fought that Paul brother.
He was gassed, dude. I don't know if you watched it.
Brother, I'm just going to say it. The Paul brothers are the worst. But
they're really good at making money, dude. Like I hate their stick, I really do. But it's just like
they make a lot of money because like the dumbest people alive walk amongst us. But they're the worst, man. I'd rather be penniless. Like, oh my god, and I get it. Like the people who could be like, well, one of them isn't one of them married to like a model or something? Like, doll isn't one of them married to her? And it's like, sure, great. I mean, hey man, listen, God bless, but like not my deal. I would have paid any amount of money to see Mike Tyson in like 1987 fight one of those dudes.
Yeah, that'd have been sick.
Would have folded him up in about 8 seconds. It's just been unbelievable. Anyway, but yeah, credit to them. They do make a lot of money.
They do.
My number one is a tie between somebody who I think actually could physically handle this and somebody who I think would just figure out a way to win. And that is Big Show.
Yeah.
And John Daly. John Daly would just be, I got it. Got to figure it out. Come in with my 8-iron. Handle business. Throw a lung dart at it and then just go after the gorilla.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Big Show is ridiculously massive.
It's a large human being.
Yeah, I'm going with those 5. Those are my 5.
That's a good one. Let me run through some of my honorable mentions because I've got a lot that didn't make it. John Jones was another guy. John Bones Jones has not necessarily had the best pass, but I think would be a great guy to take on a gorilla. The Great Khali. Great Khali back in the day. Yeah, he would have been he was one as well that made that honorable mention. Another just large human being. 2005 Dave Bautista, jacked human being. Also like kind of in the same vein as like Kurt Angle. I think that would have been a good one. Prime Bruce Lee. I think Prime Bruce Lee could have made some noise there. What else do I have here? Oh, and your buddy 8 Beers Deep.
Okay. Yeah, that guy's always ready to fight.
I mean, that's my honorable mentions for guys that I would like to see take on a gorilla.
Fair. Honorable mention. Lawrence Taylor was the guy I thought about putting on the list.
It's a good one. Yeah.
Just seems like he is enough of a maniac.
Yeah.
Ronnie Lott cut off his pinky to play in a football game.
He did do that.
I'm thinking that guy's probably got to be on the list.
Mm-hmm.
I know he's long dead, but Teddy Roosevelt.
He was badass. That dude was badass.
Yeah, man finished the speech after he got shot. I'm going to finish this up and then handle business after. There's a lot of guys. Basically any baseball player from the steroid era.
Right. That's why I threw the Bash Brothers in there because those guys were
a lot of drugs.
Voided out on cocaine probably at the same time and just ripping homers and just ripping I was going to say dongs. I was like, I probably should not say ripping dongs. Ripping dingers.
There you go. There's a lot. There's a lot to choose from, but yeah, it's
Don Terry Poe.
Poe would have been a good one. John Alt back in the day.
Yes, that does.
About it. Yeah, it's massive.
Glenn
Sean Smith, the former Chiefs player who just was all about being aggressive.
Big dude too. He's a big dude. I've seen him in real life. Yeah.
A lot of choices.
There's a ton of choices. I do think in this whole gorilla versus 100 guys fight, like they're all. I called it naked on naked earlier, but like there's no weapons used by either party. Like you can't just like outfit like the Bash Brothers with a bat. You can't just you can't just like give one a gun because
I'm on Team Gorilla, by the way. A gorilla would murder 100 people.
Yeah, I think so too, but I think that there's an attrition factor to it where you could probably only attack like 10 guys at a time to a gorilla. The gorilla's hitbox isn't very big, so you can't go 100 attacking at once. And then the gorilla's gonna take on, like, if you do 10 waves of 10, I mean that gorilla's gonna have some attrition, and it comes down to it. But I still think the gorilla wins. But I do think it's closer.
You're seeing the size of a gorilla's like hand, like its paw.
Oh yeah, they're massive. They're massive.
That thing is gonna crack about 5 heads a second. You know, like. And then we got like Joe Blow going up there trying to throw a haymaker.
if it's like 100 average dudes and not like 100 hand-selected superhumans that we're talking about here. Like, I don't think it's close.
Like, is Jay Glazer in the mix? Jay Glazer's all about lifting weights and being.
Jay Glazer, it's big in jiu-jitsu, right? Is that
He's a great guy? But yeah, man, he's all about his physical fitness. I feel like Jay Glazer's ready to brawl.
I feel like he could throw it on literally any moment. If you sneak up on him, you don't want to do it too quick because he will.
Jay seems like the kind of guy that like really good dude to hang out with, but also like the fight breaks out, you probably want him on your side.
Correct.
So,
yeah, I think that's going to do it for this week's That Football Show. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us as we rock and roll into the weekend and into the offseason. This is like truly the one time of the year that's like actually slow for the NFL season. We got
obviously it's coming out though in 12 days. 11 days from when this goes out. 11 days.
Yeah, there you go. That's crazy to think about. But at least we'll have something to talk about then. They're starting rookie mini camp. They're going to do little mini camps, mandatory mini camp. That doesn't matter. You guys don't care about that. Nothing happens from those. Unless nobody, I don't think anyone's like not going to show up. I guess Trey Smith could just not show up, but it's not anticipated.
Yeah. And if he doesn't, like, who cares? Like, nobody's going to be like, what the hell? Like, where's he? Yeah.
Why isn't he at mandatory mini camp? Like, I don't care. I actually, you know what? I don't want Trey Smith at mandatory mini camp.
It'd be hilarious if like Kristen Fulton didn't show up.
You see he's wearing number 8, by the way?
Yeah, he did.
That's weird.
I thought about that.
Gardner Minshew 17. That's fine.
I thought it was interesting that isn't Jalot is 97?
Yeah. Him and Felix are both 97. I don't know how they're going to get away with that.
It's just like one guy wins. Like that stuff.
Yeah, that is really, maybe Felix was already planning on changing his number, but he was 97 at Kansas State. So like, I don't know.
He should change it to like 0.
Yeah. Well, the Chiefs need a 0. The Chiefs have never had a 0. They need one.
Need 00.
00 was my baseball number. That's what I always wore because I was like, 00 is a sick number. Nobody wears 00. Like that's a sick number. That's what I always wore in baseball. I wore 50 in football. Nice. Because it was the closest number to being eligible to carry the ball. That's why I did it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I was just real thinking ahead there. It didn't matter, but I was just super thinking ahead. All right, that's gonna do it for That Football Show. We'll be back next week. We'll talk about whatever the hell's going on. We'll talk about it. That's Matt Verderame. I'm Tucker Franklin. Thank you to Holiday Distillery, Ben Holiday Bottled and Bond Bourbon for making this show possible. We will talk to you all next week.